everyone, this is CA Vidhi Raichura, and in today's video we are going to cover liquidity ratios, of course, which is a small part of a broader topic called ratio analysis. We are going to have series of videos after this, and in today's video we are going to cover current ratio, quick ratio and cash ratio. What does liquidity actually mean, or what will liquidity ratios indicate? Liquidity ratios will indicate the ability of any business or company to pay off its debt. So basically, these three ratios are used for the analysis of the ability of any business to pay off its debt. All right, let's start with the first one. The first one is current ratio. Okay, so the formula for current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. What do you mean by current assets and current liabilities? So current assets and current liabilities are all such assets and all such liabilities which are supposed to be paid off or received within a year, that is within 12 months. I will give you some examples. Debtors, inventory, these are your current assets, and creditors and bank overdraft are your current liabilities. All right, so if I'll just give you an example over here. So if my current assets are 10 and my current liabilities are 5, okay, so here the ratio is going to be 2:1, which means the company has the ability, double the ability to pay its current liabilities. If the company has 1 rupee as current liabilities, for that 1 rupee of debt to be paid, it has 2 rupees of current assets. All right, so this is what is very important that we'll have to keep in mind, and hence for all the ratios I have mentioned, what that particular ratio indicates, what is the analysis that you get out of it. All right, so current ratio is going to indicate the ability of the company to pay short-term liabilities with short-term assets. We just discussed this. All right, also it is also pretty much all the ratios have an ideal ratio as to what number is the best. Okay, so with current ratios it is 2:1. So does this mean any company which has anything less than it has a very bad liquidity, and any company which has anything more than 2 is exceptionally good? While here I would like to stop and want you all to think a little. Though 2:1 is the ideal ratio, but you will also have to take into consideration various factors like the industry in which it operates. If the company is in an industry which is cash rich, in that case a little less than 2 is also okay. Also, if the company operates in an industry where the credit cycle or the credit period is quite long, in that case anything more than 2 or quite more than 2 is also okay. So of course, all I'm trying to say is you will have to consider various factors and not just go by the book that it is 2:1. Of course, in academics we go by the book that 2:1 is going to be the ideal ratio. We'll quickly move on to the second one, which is quick ratio. Let me also tell you, quick ratio is also known as acid test ratio, or it is also known as liquid ratio. All right, all these three names mean the same thing. Now the formula here is, I would say it is same as current ratio, except that the numerator has quick ratio. If we look at what quick ratio means, it means current assets minus inventory. So what are we trying to look at over here? We are trying to get better with our liquidity with each progressing ratio that I am taking up. All right, with current ratio, we were talking about the entire current ratio and current liabilities, but with quick ratio we've narrowed it down only to quick assets, which means I am excluding inventory. Why am I excluding inventory? Because in many cases, in many companies, in many industries, inventory would take a longer period, that is longer than 12 months. Also, that's why it is not considered under quick ratio. So we are trying to only include those assets which are readily available right now, which can be converted into cash a little easily, okay, can be converted into cash easily. So that's why they're called quick assets. So it is a replica of current ratio, except that the numerator will subtract the inventory out of it. All right, what does it indicate? It indicates the ability to pay short term liability with most liquid assets. All right, so here the ideal ratio is reduced and it comes to 1:1. All right. So for every rupee of current liability, if the company has 1 rupee of current assets, or let me say quick or liquid assets, then this particular ratio is considered to be ideal scenario. All right. Moving on to the third and the last ratio, which is cash ratio. Here it becomes even more narrower, and we're looking at even better liquidity, or a liquidity at an even immediate period. All right, so here we are looking at the formula as in the numerator is cash and cash equivalents and the denominator remains the same, that is current liabilities. Let us understand what will cash and cash equivalents include. It will have everything which is cash right now. Like when I say right now, it would mean just maybe a couple of days and you will have the cash in your hand. Okay, until now, even in liquid assets or even in quick ratio, we were not talking about only immediate cash in my hand. We were talking about other assets as well, but we had excluded inventory because that might take a longer period. But in case of cash ratio, we're just talking about something which is immediate right now available with us. All right, so it is cash in hand, it is cash at bank, and marketable securities. When I say marketable securities, I would include some short term investments that I have, which if which if I try to withdraw them, they will be there in my bank account, or they will be there with me in the form of cash or bank balance uh, in maximum a couple of days. All right, so those are called marketable securities and they are cash equivalents. All right, so that's why we write it as cash and cash equivalents. All right, so here the formula is cash and cash equivalents divided by current liabilities. We are looking at the ability to pay short-term liabilities with cash and cash equivalents. Let's understand that as we progress through the ratios, the numerator becomes narrower and narrower and narrower. All right. So here the ideal ratio is anything between 0.5 is to 1 to 1 is to 1, which means for every current liability that I have, even if I have half of it in cash and cash equivalents, I will be good, because of course there will be other assets which will cover the rest. All right, so that is the reason only with cash, if I have to pay off my current liabilities, I'd be better off if I have half of the current liabilities in my cash and cash equivalents, as per the ideal scenario. All right, so that is all about the liquidity ratios. I would also like to end the video again repeating my point that even though the ideal ratios are 2 is to 1, 1 is to 1, and 0.5 is to 1, always consider various other ratios in comparison to these, and various other factors like industry, business cycle, the product, the service, the scale at which the company is operating. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.